A family welcomed a homeless man into their lives. But he repaid their kindness with a horrific act. In March 2016, Aaron Barley was huddled inside a cardboard box outside a supermarket in the town of Stourbridge in the United Kingdom. Barley was in his early 20s and he had been drifting for years. He was cold, hungry, and alone. But then a passing stranger took pity on him. Tracey Wilkinson was a 50-year-old full-time mother and a champion ballroom dancer. She was a chatty, kind-hearted woman who did voluntary work to help the elderly. Her husband, Peter, 47, was a prosperous businessman who owned a firm called Asset International. They had 2 children, 13-year-old Pierce and 18-year-old Lydia. And they lived in a comfortable detached house in the suburb of Norton. By contrast, Barley had never known a stable family life. Orphaned at the age of 6, he grew up in care homes and foster families. Born to an uncle and niece, he was a child of incest. Barley was troubled and violent. And after leaving school, he ended up on the streets. By the time Tracey found him down and out in Stourbridge, he had 21 criminal convictions and was addicted to cocaine. But everyone deserves a second chance, or so Tracey thought. That day, she took Barley home and gave him a hot meal, the first of many. She helped him find a place to live. She even gave him cash. Barley told the family he just needed a chance. And so Peter organized a laboring job for him at the docks in Newport, Wales. Meanwhile, Tracey took Barley to the Atlantic House Rehabilitation Center, where she herself had once received treatment for alcohol addiction. Volunteers at the center observed that Barley was obsessed with weapons, especially knives. He talked about wanting to kill people, about chopping them up, especially policemen and prison officers. But they dismissed his talk as mere bravado. In September 2016, roughly 5 months into his job, Barley began acting chaotically. He started taking drugs, Peter told The Guardian in October 2017. As a business, we had to let him go. It was very amicable. In fact, Barley had started behaving aggressively towards some of his managers. And after losing his job, he was evicted from his apartment too. The Wilkinsons lost contact with Barley until they found him sleeping in their driveway one day in late 2016. I got him up and made him some tea, Peter told The Guardian. I believe he'd been on the streets and had been badly beaten. He was covered in bruises and my wife decided that as a family, we should help him again. And so the family helped Barley back on his feet. They invited him in for Christmas. And by early 2017, he had found a new job and an apartment. But then he started using drugs again. He was fired and started going off the rails. His former foster carer Eileen Adams became so worried by his Facebook posts that she contacted the West Midlands Police from her home in Australia. Now I have nothing to lose, you are all going to pay for it, wrote Barley on Facebook. Got to get some help before I got on a killing spree, don't F*** with me, I'm unstable. Apparently, the police did not follow up on these warning signs. But Adams was not the only one with concerns about Barley, his character, and his potential for violence. I've known Aaron since he was 17, said a former friend to the Birmingham Mail in 2017. He always had the look of the devil in his eyes and spoke about death as if it was a game. He would actually describe himself as being like the devil, referencing his eyes. And whenever he disliked someone he would say he would kill them. In March 2017, Tracey spotted 2 people peering over her fence. One of them was Barley, and he threatened to kill her. Understandably, Tracey decided to break off contact with him. She canceled his cell phone contract, which she had been paying for. But around a week later, on March 29th, Barley crept into her garden. He hid inside a shed. And he waited. The next morning, Peter left the house to walk the family dog. While he was out, Barley emerged from his hiding place wearing a black balaclava. He crept into the house and took 2 knives from a block in the kitchen. Then he went upstairs and attacked Tracey in her bed. He knifed her at least 17 times and left wounds 6 inches deep. He then attacked Pierce, stabbing him at least 8 times and nearly severing his spinal cord. When Peter returned from walking the dog, he noticed that the house was unusually quiet. He opened the back door and Barley jumped out at him like a ninja. I grappled with him and he stabbed me 6 times, Peter told The Guardian. Twice in the face, twice in the abdomen and twice in the back. I said to him after he'd stabbed me, "Aaron, we tried to help you," and he stuck the knife into my stomach and said, "Die, you be asterisk 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 dot." Barley then bolted from the house and drove off in the family car. Meanwhile, Peter managed to call for an ambulance. Medics found him in the garden and whisked him away to critical care. He eventually recovered from his injuries. Pierce, however, died after arriving in hospital. Tracey was pronounced dead at the scene. Lydia was away at the time of the attack and rushed to her father's side as she heard the news. "They took me to critical care," she told The Guardian. "I saw my dad with countless machines hooked up to him, a lot of doctors around his bed. I held his hand, and said that I was there, and he opened his eyes and looked at me, and then went back unconscious. I thought that was going to be the last time I saw my dad alive." Meanwhile, Barley drove around until crashing the car. He was arrested after a chase. According to local newspaper the Shropshire Star, he told the officers, "I had the knife in my hand, I chopped them up. I've done it, what's more to say?" He also told Michael Hazelgrove, the deputy director of Winson Green Jail, "I am pleased that I got two, but I am upset that I didn't get him." Detective Superintendent Tom Chisholm of West Midlands Police described the attack as the most disturbing he'd ever seen. "This was a truly shocking incident," he said outside Birmingham Crown Court in October 2017. Efforts were made to interview Barley, but he remained largely uncooperative. "He still has not assisted us to gain a clear understanding of what motivated him. There's no motive, there is no explanation," Peter told The Guardian. "My personal feeling is that he'd lost his job, he lost his flat. And he decided that because his life was going bad ways, he was going to take it out on the people that had cared and looked after him. I wish we had never met him, I wish my wife had never set eyes on him." Peter's sentiments were echoed by Lydia. Reading a personal statement in court, she told Barley, "My parents helped you, you repaid them with destruction and heartache. You have obliterated my life, murdered half my family, very nearly all of it, and for this I will never forgive you. Sometimes I wake up and don't want to be here. What did they do to deserve this?" Barley pleaded guilty and was sentenced to a minimum of 30 years in jail. But according to Detective Sergeant Andrew Houston, the deputy officer managing the case, it is doubtful that he will ever be set free. It is unlikely that a parole board would ever consider releasing such a dangerous individual back into the community, he told the Shropshire Star. If true, Barley should forget about any more second chances.